The Galactic Empire's central chamber echoed with the sound of victorious laughter. The council of high-ranking officials, clad in elaborate robes and surrounded by screens showing their latest conquests, basked in their success. They relished tales of subjugated worlds, conquered species, and the technological superiority that made their empire unmatched. In their minds they were supreme, a force that no species, no matter how bold, could ever defy. Rumors of Earth, a tiny blue planet on the Empire's distant frontier, were only a trivial curiosity to them. Reports painted humans as an odd, relatively new species, barely scratching the surface of space travel. Their technological level, by the Empire's standards, was primitive, a mere footnote in the chronicles of conquest. To them, Earth was no different than the countless other worlds they had absorbed without resistance. Earth and humanity were minor distractions, the Empire's leaders agreed. A scouting squadron would be more than sufficient to manage them. An advisor, standing off to the side, shifted uncomfortably. He was a seasoned tactician, known for his sharp instincts, and though his doubts were subtle, they were present. He'd reviewed the scattered reports from the frontier, unusual readings, glimpses of ships with designs that didn't match the Empire's records, and a few unconfirmed incidents of alien ships engaging Imperial scouts, and winning. When he brought up these findings to the Council, however, they dismissed him. The Empire's arrogance was as vast as its fleet, and they mocked the notion that humans could pose any threat. To their minds, any resistance would only add to the Empire's list of easy victories. As the Council continued their discussions, the advisor stood in silence, his warning unheeded. He knew the Empire had defeated many foes with ease, but something about these humans, these unassuming beings from a small, unremarkable world, unsettled him. His instincts urged caution, yet he kept his doubts private, waiting and watching as his warnings dissolved into laughter. The Empire's confidence was absolute, built on the backs of every world they had crushed beneath their rule. Every species had fallen before them, from the noble to the feral. Their military might, perfected over centuries, was feared across the galaxy. Yet they knew little of humanity's strength, or their resolve. On the outer edge of the Galactic Empire's domain, the first human ships appeared, drifting calmly yet purposefully toward Imperial patrols. The Empire's scouts, seasoned pilots with vast experience, expected an effortless encounter. Yet, as they hailed the human vessels, the response was silence, and the ships continued their silent advance. Confused, the lead scout ordered a warning shot, just a brief pulse across the bow, a reminder of Imperial might. To his shock, the human ship didn't flinch. Instead, it adjusted course slightly and accelerated, a deliberate act that felt like a direct challenge. The Empire's scouts quickly regrouped and launched into an attack formation, intending to crush the insolence in one swift, surgical strike. But the human ships were prepared. Moving in tight, synchronized formations, they danced around the scouts' attacks with an efficiency that was baffling. Plasma beams and energy pulses flared as the humans retaliated, and to the shock of the Empire's forces, their shields faltered. The Empire's energy barriers, advanced and formidable, began to buckle and fracture under human firepower. One Imperial scout was hit directly, its hull ripping apart in a silent explosion. The others pulled back, barely evading further strikes. This was no minor encounter. Humans had power, and they knew how to use it. The commanders aboard the Empire's main fleet received the disturbing news with disbelief. Humans had somehow destroyed several Imperial ships. Impossible. Frustrated by what they saw as a fluke, the fleet admiral ordered a larger detachment to engage. He was determined to eliminate these upstart ships and restore the Empire's sense of invulnerability. This time, a full squadron was sent, led by one of the Empire's elite destroyers, bristling with advanced weaponry and heavily armored. The humans appeared to retreat as the Imperial squadron approached, and for a brief moment, the Empire's forces felt victorious. But the retreat was a trap. Lured into a nebula cloud, the Empire's ships found their sensors scrambled and visibility reduced. Suddenly, human ships emerged from the mist, maneuvering with agility and precision that Imperial ships struggled to match. It became clear that this wasn't some random skirmish. Humans were coordinating, attacking with intent. Their smaller, nimble vessels darted in and out of the Imperial formation, targeting engines, weapon arrays, and key points in the Empire's ships with unsettling accuracy. Panic began to creep into the minds of the Empire's pilots and captains. The human weapons, strange combinations of plasma bursts and high-energy projectiles, weren't just damaging their ships but dismantling them piece by piece. It became clear that the humans had come prepared, with technology that was adaptive and unexpectedly lethal. One Empire commander, fighting off growing dread, sent out a call for reinforcement. This wasn't supposed to happen. They were the Empire, conquerors of countless worlds, yet they were losing ground, quickly and decisively. The reports reached the Empire's central command. Watching from their capital, the High Council listened to confused, fragmented messages. Words like overwhelming firepower, retreat, and impossible tactics filled the airwaves. The Empire had been confident, dismissive, yet now, with every dispatch, that confidence was shaken. For the first time, the Council was faced with a foe that didn't just resist, they retaliated. The human fleet arrived in full force, and with it, a terrifying realization dawned on the Empire's commanders. What had once seemed like a few isolated ships was, in fact, the vanguard of a well-prepared, highly coordinated armada. Thousands of ships, each uniquely engineered and bristling with formidable weapons, filled the vastness of space before them. At the fleet's center, massive vessels of unfamiliar design pulsed with energy, hulking ships powered by a combination of plasma and solar energy, unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. Humanity wasn't just surviving, they had come to win. The Empire's admirals scrambled to organize a cohesive response, calling every available ship in the sector to the battlefront. They formed defensive lines, relying on centuries-old tactics that had crushed countless civilizations before. Yet, the humans seemed to anticipate every move. Each time the Empire's ships formed a defensive wall, the human fleet would shift, slicing through gaps with calculated precision. These were not erratic attacks. Humanity's forces moved in harmony, their maneuvers swift and devastating, with a strategic unity that left the Empire's officers in awe and fear. What shocked the Empire most was the human fleet's technology. Imperial ships, long regarded as the pinnacle of military engineering, suddenly felt obsolete. Human ships utilized gravitational drives, allowing them to evade the Empire's fire with ease, darting in and out of range like specters. Their weapons, some kind of advanced plasma mixed with energy particles, penetrated the Empire's strongest shields, turning what should have been skirmishes into humiliating routs. With every assault, the humans struck surgically, targeting vital systems and obliterating Empire ships with shocking efficiency. It was clear now that humanity had not come unprepared. Their fleet had the mark of a species that understood not only war but adaptability. They had developed weapons designed to exploit every weakness in the Empire's arsenal. The Empire's commanders, for the first time, felt the raw edge of uncertainty, realizing they were facing an opponent who had studied them, dissected their tactics, and found every gap in their vaunted defenses. This was a level of precision and cunning that the Empire, in its arrogance, had never prepared for. As the battle raged, the Empire's soldiers, accustomed to witnessing the humiliation of weaker civilizations, found themselves on the receiving end of that very humiliation. They were not simply outmatched, they were being dismantled piece by piece. Communications were filled with frantic, terrified voices as captains reported the disintegration of their ships, their pleas cut off by the quiet finality of annihilation. What began as a calculated show of dominance by the Empire had devolved into a desperate struggle for survival. In a rare moment of pause, a human transmission cut through the Empire's communication channels. It was a single, unadorned message, a declaration devoid of boasts or threats. "We are here to reclaim our sovereignty. Stand down, or face the consequences." The message, though simple, held a gravity that stunned the Empire's fleet. The Empire, accustomed to issuing ultimatums, was now on the receiving end. It was unthinkable, and yet, the proof of humanity's might was scattered across the battlefield. The Empire's admirals, once smug in their superiority, felt a cold wave of fear settle over them. This was not an enemy that could be subdued by sheer force or intimidated by displays of power. Humanity had declared their intent with calm determination, and with every passing moment, it became clearer that this was not an idle threat. The Empire's fleet was crumbling, and they were running out of time to recognize the gravity of their misjudgment. As the final remnants of the Empire's fleet struggled to hold formation, a grim silence settled among the remaining commanders. What had begun as a mission to subdue had transformed into a fight for survival, and now, that fight was nearly lost. Human ships continued their relentless advance, systematically dismantling the Empire's last defenses. The massive Imperial flagship, once the pride of their fleet, now lay exposed, vulnerable, and surrounded. Empire soldiers, normally defiant to the end, now transmitted hurried, panicked messages, scrambling to find any avenue for retreat. Amidst the chaos, the High Council on the capital planet could only watch in stunned silence as their once mighty armada was decimated. Each shattered ship, each quieted distress signal, brought a fresh wave of dread. They had underestimated humanity to an unfathomable degree, and now, the full force of their miscalculation was laid bare before them. For centuries, they had believed in their unassailable might, secure in the knowledge that no species could rival their technology, their power, or their dominion. But in the face of humanity's unexpected prowess, that illusion crumbled to dust. In a last-ditch effort to salvage the situation, the Empire's fleet commanders issued an unconditional surrender, pleading for mercy. They were prepared for retribution, perhaps the utter obliteration of their forces, but humanity's response was a stark contrast to their expectations. Instead of delivering the final blow, the human ships held their positions. Humanity had achieved total dominance but had chosen restraint. It was an act that stunned every Empire soldier and official who witnessed it. They had been ready to fight to the bitter end, expecting their enemies to be as ruthless as they had always been. But humanity offered terms, a reprieve that demanded only peace and a solemn recognition of Earth's sovereignty. The High Council deliberated with a mixture of shame and relief, fully aware of what accepting these terms meant. It was a complete reversal of roles, the once dominant empire brought to its knees by an upstart civilization they had once dismissed as inconsequential. They had no choice but to accept. Declining would only mean extinction, and the empire had suffered enough defeat to recognize when it was beaten. As the council signed the armistice, the news spread across the galaxy, igniting a spark of hope in worlds long oppressed by the empire's rule. Species who had lived under imperial control for generations received word of the human victory with disbelief and cautious optimism. If humanity could rise and defy the empire, perhaps there was a chance for others to reclaim their own sovereignty. The Galactic Order, once rigidly enforced by imperial decree, began to shift as whispers of rebellion and independence stirred. The empire, once feared and unquestioned, now found itself facing a galaxy no longer willing to submit without question. And at the heart of this transformation stood humanity, a species the Empire had tried to conquer and humiliate, only to see them become the very symbol of defiance and strength. Humanity's victory had not only preserved Earth but had also planted the seeds of change across countless systems. As the Empire's ships limped back to their territories, their pride shattered, they were left to grapple with the hard truth: humanity had forever altered the balance of power in the galaxy. The remnants of the Imperial fleet withdrew, humbled and diminished. And as the humans watched them depart, they knew their message had been delivered. Earth was no longer a silent, unassuming planet at the galaxy's edge. It was now a force to be reckoned with, respected, and feared by those who once believed themselves untouchable.